Many Black women are still recovering from the election. As they face the disappointment of Kamala Harris's loss, some feel totally rejected and betrayed by society. Sure, you have a few Black women who are content and at peace promoting Trump and celebrating the Trump effect. But to manage the sadness, we're seeing all kinds of behaviors from the ladies in an attempt to move forward. Some are going on strike, letting white America and other marginalized groups know their Black girl services are closed for good.
In every aspect of society, people benefit off of Black women speaking up, making space. But we were always advocating and making sure everybody was taken care of. We are not doing that anymore.
Others are gathering strength and preparing to march on.
We're going to have to be marching in the front lines again if we ever want to see some kind of change.
And yet, many more have decided to enter again into their soft girl era, focusing on themselves and their own mental well-being.
These next 4 years is FM season. It's like, focus on me. It's all about me, myself, and I.
Black women, if this election tells you anything,
I didn't know this until my brother died, but funerals cost at least 15 grand. Money I didn't have to give him the dignified burial he deserved.
it's that it's time to put yourself first.
But along with managing the disappointment they're grappling with, many are finding solace, peace, and gratitude in the amount of Black men who stood by their side. Yes, nearly 80% of Black men backed Kamala Harris, and that was enough to give these lovely ladies hope that there is someone standing behind them when it's all said and done. As we've discussed in my previous video, some have shown gestures of gratitude towards Black men for their support. But along with this gratitude are suggestions on how Black men and Black women can start to come together, combine resources, efforts, and build for a better future. It seems like the ladies are now ready to prioritize building the Black community and look towards a future where Black men and women are working side by side. But not so fast. Black men have something else to say. I mentioned in my previous video how Black men are skeptical of these apologies. I mean, just a few weeks back, they were being publicly mocked, ridiculed, and shamed by the Democrats without little pushback from Black women. In fact, many actually joined in on the criticism. And the very fact that women are making public announcements that they are now focusing on themselves in the Black community begs the question, well, what were you doing beforehand? If you weren't focusing on your community beforehand, who were you working with? And we all know the answer to that question. Black women aligned with white women and other minorities to support feminism, because feminism would ultimately give them freedom away from men and independence through governmental programs and other institutional benefits that gave women total agency. Unfortunately, this effort backfired when Black women found out white women chose their men and their community over female solidarity. When the pressure is on, white women choose self-preservation. This is exactly why so many Black ladies felt betrayed by white society and specifically white women. They thought the sisterhood they had formed was enough to dismantle the patriarchy, other misogynistic, racist, anti-Black, anti-woke politics. Yeah, not quite. They were let down. But as I mentioned before, when all else fails and Black women find no one else there for them, at least they have Black men. At least that's what the polls showed. Now, Black men have been saying for years that Black women chose feminism in allegiance with white society over the Black community. To be specific, they said Black women prefer the benefits of fitting into white corporate spaces instead of working with Black men to build a reality that serves the interest of Black men and Black women. But now that Black women are running to Black men to try and build an alliance, many men are questioning whether these gestures are genuine or simply a classic case of the reachback. Now, what is the reachback? I heard about this concept for the first time this week, and I think the term comes from the content creator Accountable Commentary. Now, I'm not as familiar with this content, but I was sent one of his videos this week, and he explains it here.
You know, when I, created the term the reachback a few years ago, right? I was explaining to Black men that, the reachback usually happens later in life with these Keishas. They give their prime years to Pookies, right? And then after they, have Pookie children, they decide that they want to get productive, clean black men, right? And the problem is that sometimes, they're successful at it. Let me tell you why the reach back happens. It's because usually they need help. Usually they need help. The reason why they want, they want you after all these years, they'll call you at 35, 40. It's because they need help. They're poor.
As some of y'all explained in my comment section, you think it's fake because you don't think it's motivated by love, respect, or even a deep sense of concern for Black progress. You say that these ladies are turning to men now because they feel scared and betrayed by society. Now that they feel that the government let them down. With talks of a toughening economy and warnings from Elon Musk that there is likely to be a temporary hardship for most of the economy, are ladies prepared to weather the revolutionary changes and work hard to build the Black community alongside the men, or are they simply reaching back to Black men because they need some help? These are all great questions, but to be honest, the great thing about this entire conversation is that we finally have a chance to see the reality of what's going on. Women thriving and living all by themselves, independent of men, is a paper-thin illusion that rips as soon as society changes or the system falls apart. God never intended that men and women would operate and live separately apart. We are a gift to one another when we are actually operating according to our design. We are meant to build together, live together, love one another, raise communities, flourish, be fruitful, and multiply. That was always his intention for us. This nation is in for some massive changes, and I do not think it's time to weather this alone, especially as a woman. Truthfully, it's about time to make peace with the men in your life or family if you can. It may take time to rebuild trust, as well as a legitimate willingness to demonstrate through action you are committed to doing something different. But it's important to consider, especially as a woman. I also strongly consider plugging yourself into an actual godly church with spiritual leaders who have a real spiritual authority. Not these fake pastors who lie to you on the pulpit, have trans lovers on the side, and cheat on their wife. No, actual pastors who have demonstrated spiritual authority by the way they live their life, the challenges they have overcome, their honesty, humility, and the way they have been able to lead their congregation into wholeness and prosperity. That is the kind of leadership you need when navigating a challenging season. I do not recommend ladies do this alone. I strongly recommend getting under a true spiritual covering, making peace with healthy men in your family, and rekindling your connection with the Most High. When the nation is under pressure, people revert back to their natural instincts. Men are made to war and can in general survive with minimal comforts. They know how to navigate in the wild, but women naturally seek for comfort and protection, and that's something men generally provide. As we see the government show its true intentions, you're reminded all you really ever had on your side was your God and the woman and men in your community. He has blessed you with now to navigate this life. This is not the time to play around and try to do life by yourself or think that a little corporate job is going to keep you safe. That is not guaranteed. Plug in. You're not going to be able to navigate what's booming alone. But with God's help, you can. But that means resetting and acknowledging Him and His ways, not doing things the way you've used to up to this point, because we all see where that leads. But what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. Leave your questions, comments, concerns in the comment section below. Thank you so much for listening if you've got this far, and we'll talk later. Bye. Kids book, Aisha learns to love her hair. Aisha's hair is stunning, but she struggles to see its beauty. Through encouragement and wisdom from Grandma Lily, Aisha learns powerful lessons about self-acceptance. Aisha's journey is a heartwarming tale of family, culture, and confidence. Share her magical journey with your little loved one today. Available for purchase.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Happy Friday. For those of you guys who are joining, like, share, subscribe on the way in. Show some love to the show. You can find me on Cash App. Shay Sade, also Venmo Shay Sade. I appreciate all of you guys who have been showing me love in the meantime and just even just for your attention. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. So thank you so much for joining me. This is a very last minute conversation. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet, but I did want to follow up real briefly on this conversation of the Swirler Reachback, because this has been, well, obviously the swirling and divesting has been a topic of conversation that I've been covering off for quite some time. Anybody who's been following me on my channel for years knows that I've addressed that consistently as it has come up. Now, as a quick recap, those of you who are not aware, over the last week, I kind of readdressed this whole swirler and divesting, just the whole swirling and divesting propaganda. And what really inspired me was the Sade Robinson case, which went viral and hit all the national news. And make a long story short, it was a young 19-year-old Black woman who went on a date with I think at the time he was 34. So she went on a date with a man who was almost 15 years older than her, a white man who was almost 15 years older than her, who, based upon her own father's recollection, was not her physical type. And this Sade Robinson, who wanted a date with this white dude, basically ended up unalived and dismembered. Like not just unalived, but like it was a very brutal, grotesque unaliving. He like dismembered her and then just left her body parts across different parts of this country. To this day, we don't even know where her head is. Like there's parts of her body that have not been retrieved. So that case really caused me to want to circle back on this whole topic of swirling and divesting, and how many girls are just full blown to the propaganda and believing that if they get with a white man, their life is going to be better, right? And they're just self-hating. They just hate the Black community, right? But then also, how many girls who they don't necessarily hate Black men, like they don't have self-hating ways in that sense, but they're just intrigued by the idea of being with a man who they believe can pay their bills. And the dating divide, I've talked about this also, where based upon the dating divide, that was that book that I covered off maybe a year or two ago. I might actually do a review of that again. But this is a book that was written by a group of sociologists, and they actually examined modern dating patterns, and they looked at the online behavior of men and women of different races. And what they found was that basically minority women all had this assumption that white men had money. They all had this assumption that white men had the resources. And so what that book was suggesting was that women of color, including Black women, right? Specifically Black women, in the case of today that I'm talking about, they look at white men and they oftentimes assume they have money and resources, right? So I brought up this question of how many young ladies are being completely sucked into the self-hating propaganda, and then how many of those aren't even necessarily self-hating per se, or they don't hate Black men or the Black community, but they're just enamored with the idea of having this luxury fantasy life, but they still put themselves in harm's way, right? So that's kind of the question that brought up. Now, with that, what I have noticed, particularly in the last few months, and I started off a few months ago, I did the video that I reviewed you guys. This was the one that I did of whether or not 2020-25 was the reachback era, right? And I heard this, honestly, I heard this idea from a lot of you followers of mine who were kind of bringing up this idea of, yeah, when the society starts to get hard and women hit the reality, then dudes start getting the hey big head messages. These women start moonwalking back and they're talking about Ungawa Black power, or they start trying to just be hella like fake feminine. And so I heard you guys already talk about this and be like, hey, I feel like we're about to see some ladies really try to backtrack and try to do the reach back, right? And so this is something I really heard you guys say months ago. Now fast forward, and it's almost like pretty much halfway through the year already. And there's been a lot more, or at least I'm seeing some, accountability channels, some accountability videos, which I don't necessarily have anything wrong with that, but the timing and the application of Black women being accountable all of a sudden, I understand for some of y'all, it can come off as really insincere, because it's like just right before Trump was election, you had a lot of women who were very vocal about basically them ultimately feeling like Black men were these misogynistic, wannabe white men brutes, basically just basically just being hella disrespectful to black men. We saw that with the Democrats. We saw that when you had like Obama, who went out and castigated black men, although black men are the most likely to vote for women and for the Democrats, period, of any other race of men. But regardless, like we saw that kind of mainstream shade that was being thrown at black men. So post-election, there seems to have been somewhat of a shift in the narrative. So what I wanted to talk about more specifically today is the swirler reachback, right? Or these are women who basically did the thing. They swirled, they married, they were in an interracial relationship, and then that didn't work out, and now they are completely pro-black, right? Or they're on the side of like, they want to be building the community. They want black men to be exclusively with black women. They want to build a new nation. They want to basically create a Wakanda. And what I wanted to look at was specifically your guys' reaction to women like that who have such a dramatic change, because I don't date women. That's not my thing. So I can't necessarily say what that must be like. I can say observationally, like as a woman, like as a woman to woman, if I see a friend of mine go through a change or go through a transformation, like there's space for that. I think women generally like to create space for them to evolve to whatever iteration or whatever version of femininity they think. That's why, I don't know if you guys saw that post that I shared. Actually, let me bring this up real quick, because this kind of is actually going to give you guys an idea of, I think, in today, why women actually like and create space for change, and they create space to evolve and to form and morph or whatever, partially because of today's societal expectations. So I shared this post a while back, right? No, this is early in the week, where it said, outgrow yourself as many times as you need to until you feel like you, right? And I put modern femininity explained. And I was kind of giving you guys this idea that, yeah, like this is going to resonate with a whole lot of women. I saw her post, I actually saw somebody I know repost this on their stories. And I was like, okay, I saw this and I thought it was super interesting, because I immediately thought a post like this is going to resonate with women and then confuse the hell out of men. That's what I thought. Like, I saw that and I was like, oh, women they're gonna clap this, they're gonna hand clap, they're gonna yes, they're gonna like, share, they're gonna retweet it. But men are gonna look at this and be like, this is super confusing. And even if I look in the comments, that was kind of the case. Some dudes are like, what? Like, this doesn't, huh? Like, if you're always changing, then you're never really, what's your end goal? So anyways, the reason I'm saying that though is this is a prime example of there's not really any specific standards. The standards are whatever works for me. And so we live in an environment right now where women are really much given the freedom to have standards that are based upon whatever works for them. So when it comes to relationships, when it comes to dating, when it comes to swirling or unswirling, you can see a woman make a rather dramatic change. And I think there's space for that. There's space for that within the feminine journey based upon a modern conception of femininity. I hope you guys are following me, right? Like with these kinds of ideas, where it's basically, there are no standards. If you live in a society that says, listen, there really are no standards. The standards are whatever you want them to be. Then you can be a swirler one day, and then the next day you can be pro-black. You can be vegan on Monday, and then Wednesday you can be carnivore. You can be on Sunday, you can be pansexual, and then on Wednesday you can be bisexual, but then on Saturday you can decide that you're asexual. So you can kind of change and evolve based upon whatever mood, hormones, the weather, your feelings, your convictions, or just the time of day. Right? Like that. There's room for you to be pretty much whatever you want. So these are the rules that exist for women, or rather the lack of rules that exist for women as far as how they get to express their femininity. But the thing about it is, what I found is no matter how women want to express themselves, or no matter how, whatever freedom they have or whatever standards they feel are right for them, if they still want to get in a relationship with a man, at some point, what the man thinks is going to matter. At some point, what he thinks is going to matter. So you can be, going back to the Swirler Reachback, you can be a woman who swirled, I mean, to the fullest regard. You to date, married, had kids, made covenant, broke bread. I mean, took in the last name. Like, you can do that to its fullest and then find out that's not for you. And then decide to say, you know what? I believe in Black love and I want Black men. You can do that. The thing is, though, how are men going to respond to that? What are men going to say when they see a woman who was down, super down for the swirl, but then now is holding her fist up into the air and trying to build Wakanda? What does that look like, and what does that mean? So that is what I want to look at today. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of context. But let me see this real quick. Okay. So now let me pull up. What I'm going to do today is mostly react to some of the different feedback that I got. If I have enough time and if I have enough support, I will open up the call lines. But for now, I want to just look at some of the things that you guys said, mentioned. And I want to react briefly to a content creator that I really like his content. And he's a Pan-African content creator and would definitely be considered more in the pro-Black space. So I wanted to react to someone who was kind of like far in the other extreme, where it's like Black, Black nation building, Black love, all of that. And like, what are men who are in that side, in that orientation, what are they saying about Black women, Black swirlers who are trying to come into the space? So that's what I'm gonna look at real briefly. But before I do so, I want to show you guys just another example of kind of what I mean when we call it, or what some of you guys called it, the Swirler Reachback. Okay, so let me show you a content creator that I ran across who shares her story.
The difference between me and Black men who date white women exclusively and perpetually is I refuse. I've dated a white man. I married one. I have the experience. I'm done. The difference between me and Black men who date white women exclusively and perpetually is I refuse. I've dated a white man. I married one. I have the experience. I'm done.
Okay.
Y'all are not going to like this, but I'm saying it. Y'all can say I'm a hypocrite. Y'all can say you can't talk, blase, blase, blase. In this country, the way it is set up, okay, Black men need to be with Black women. If you are dating exclusively white women, you need to go to therapy, okay, and unpack that self-hatred that you got. Okay. And all the rhetoric I hear about Black women are this, Black women are that, I don't want to hear it. It's bullshit. There are plenty of Black women. Do you know how often Black women seek out a man that's not Black? Do you? Do you know how often Black women seek out men that are not Black? Even in this day and age when they very much should be. They should be like, you know what?
Huh? What?
And go get something else. If we lived in a perfect world where racism and Jim Crow laws and racism didn't exist, I wouldn't give a fuck. Because then love could be love. But at this, where we are right now, I heard this. Deontay Kyle said it, but I heard it before I heard him say it. You have a low racial self-esteem. It should be an honor to be with a Black woman. It should be a privilege to be with a Black woman. It should be standard. It should be traditional to be with a Black woman for Black men. And I know y'all going to be like, oh, but Amber, I was lost in the sauce. I did not know no better. And I always take it. I always go, you know what? You're right. I did it wrong. I did not do what I am preaching to do right now. I did not do that. I know better now. When you know better, you do better. And there's not a man right now that's better suited for me than a man that is Black. Just like me. Y'all are not gonna like this, but I'm saying it. Y'all can say I'm a hypocrite.
Okay, so I want to just play that real quick in its entirety. I wanted to play that real quick in its entirety. And then now I want to play it again and just share a few things that I have noticed. But for those of you guys who are joining, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Today I wanted to focus real briefly on some of the feedback that I got from y'all just regarding this whole idea of the Swirler Reachback, or basically what this trend of Black women who, you know, were down for the swirl basically, and then decided to come back and came to the revelation that swirl isn't for them and it's all about Black love. And how are men reacting to that? Because I do believe that that can happen. I do believe a woman can go on a journey of learning, evolving. Hindsight is 2020. But the thing about it is, men still have the, you know, choice to react to the woman that they're going to be dating with. You know, a woman can do a whole 180-degree turnaround, but that's still, men are still going to judge, or still going to have an opinion about a woman's past or her transformation. So that is really what this video is about. And I just showed you a woman who was a self-admitted swirler. She married, she had kids with a European man, and has now decided that Black men need to be with Black women. So that's what we're going to look at. And then after, I'm going to play a content creator reaction to this, because what I really wanted to see is what y'all are saying and how you guys are perceiving what's happening when you're running into Black women in the dating market, or you're interacting with them and they come off with this Black power, Ungawa Black power, Wakanda forever, fist in the air, the only, you know, they're praying to their ancestors, you know, they got the cowrie shells on, they're wearing their, you know, the locks, the African wraps or whatever, but then you find out they have a mixed child. You know, like what? Like what? So that is what we're going to be. That's what I was most interested in. Okay. I'm going to play this again real quick. And then
y'all are not going to like this, but I'm saying it. Y'all can say I'm a hypocrite. Y'all can say you can't talk, blase, blase, blase. In this country, the way it is set up, okay, Black men need to be with Black women.
I want to say this real quick. I don't think Black men even have this problem. Honestly, I don't think Black men have a problem with the idea of being with Black women by and large, like for their Blackness. Now, a lot of the disdain or the frustration that I'm hearing from Black men now is born out of interpersonal, you know, issues like this in interpersonal relationships, you know, dating standards or expectations, or just a blatant lack of respect, misandry. But Black men, by and large, I would argue, are not anti-Black. That is to say, like, they're not against a Black woman's Black features, her Black hair, her Black nose, her Black skin. Like that, I'm sure that happens in some cases. We're all aware of those raccoons, and Black men are very comfortable calling out raccoons. But I'm saying, like, I don't really think that Black men, by and large, are going around with a crisis. Like, they don't like the physical traits of Black women. You know what I mean? Like, this, Black men have actually heard this since day one of being in this nation. Like, anti-miscegenation laws were specifically about making sure that Black men were only with Black women. Like, this, what she's saying right here, was actually codified in the law. If a Black man was found with a white woman, he could be hung, even if he wasn't found with a white woman. Even if they thought that somebody had an idea in their head that he had interest, he could be unalived. So it's like we have an entire history of Black men being told they need to stay with Black men. So much so that it was actually law, and a Black man could lose his life if he stepped outside of that code. So I'm saying that because I'm like, I don't think people act like Black men all around are just lust after white women like that. Like, to be a Black man is to inherently lust for white features and white hair and white. And I'm like, that's just not true. Yeah, that happens on some level, but I don't think it happens on the scale that it's talked about, honestly. And I just wanted to mention that. Okay, let me continue.
If you are dating exclusively white women, you need to go to therapy, okay? And unpack that self-hatred that you got, Okay. And all the rhetoric I hear about black women are this, black women are that, I don't want to hear it. It's bullshit. There are plenty of black women. Do you know how often black women seek out a man that's not black?
That happens actually quite a bit. That's why I don't understand her point. I don't know if she's saying that as if black women don't do that, because I'm like, that is actually, it happens quite often. It happens quite often. Fine, honestly, like, if you can find me a black male equivalent to swirling and divesting. If you can find me a black male equivalent movement to swirling and divesting, I dare you to do that, please. The closest you're going to find is SYSBN and Passport Bros. And even a lot of those men are going to other countries and they're getting black women. They're getting melanated women. They're getting women from the Dominican Republic, from Ethiopia, from Nigeria, from the Caribbean, from Ghana. Like, they're getting women, black women, just from different cultures. So she's saying this as if black women are like so freaking race loyal, and I've broken that down. I've broken that down multiple times. One of you guys mentioned the dating divide. I covered off the dating divide a few years ago. A few years ago, I covered that off. Right when it, I think when it really hit, and like it's really clear. The dating divide breaks that down, or at least what it does is it brings to question. It challenges these notions that black women are just inherently race loyal. It really challenges that. And like I said, history alone does that. I did a whole live a few years ago about debunking the myth of black female loyalty, and how, there's a long history of black women selling their people out. Selling their people out. I mean, it gets really gross. Daughters of the trade, anyone? Daughters of the trade. So anyways, I don't want to go on a tangent, but I'm like, she's saying that, and I'm like, I don't understand where the point is, because if she's saying that to kind of allude to the fact that black women don't really date out, that's actually not true. That they don't desire dating out, that's certainly not true. We can think of the amount of think pieces, marriages for white people, all the different editorials that have come out of different colleges of black women basically complaining that they're not getting picked, complaining about that the algorithms and the dating apps are racist. Like, these are essentially black women complaining that they're not getting the options with white men that they secretly desire. Not to mention there's a history of black women actually having those interpersonal sexual relationships with men. They just may not always lead to marriage or something long term. But anyways, let's continue.
Do you know how often black women seek out men that are not black? Even in this day and age, when they very much should be, they should be like, you know what?
Yeah, so she's misinformed. She's running with an old talking point from maybe the 60s. I don't even really know. She's completely misinformed, because black women seek out white men actually very much. The issues they have is that white men just don't have the same level of interest. And it's I always think about, I don't know how to say this in a way that doesn't come off as just so mean or crash or blunt, but that's the truth. The challenge is that white men just aren't interested like that. That's why we don't see swirling to the level that it could be, because it's one, to a certain extent, it's one-sided adoration and less. Let's continue.
And go get something else. If we lived in a perfect world where racism and Jim Crow laws and racism didn't exist, I wouldn't give a fuck. Because then love could be love. But at this, where we are right now.
So this is interesting, because this part, what she's basically saying is, if we lived in a great society, then yeah, you could swirl. It wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, then there wouldn't be a necessity. So it sounds like what she's saying is that the reason black men and black women need to get together is because of the threat of danger, or the threat of, whether it's financial instability, just because of the threat of the different changes that are happening in this environment. It doesn't sound like it's born out of a place of real love. She's saying this from a survival instinct, which I find to be really interesting. And that point she said right there, it just showed it. She was like, if we lived in a peaceful society where there wasn't racism, then it'd be great, right? Then you could do that. We wouldn't have to worry about this. But because we live in this current paradigm, we have to stay together to survive. Basically, that's the translation. That's what she's meaning. So very, 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 very interesting. And like I said, that's a bit different than. I just love my black men. I just love their culture. I just love who they are, and I want to be with them just because I just love my culture. That's why. So that's a little different than I'm with black men out of a necessity to try to stay safe in this empire or this nation to me that is feeling increasingly unsafe. That's different than I want to be with the black men. That is my first choice because I just love who I am. I love my culture and I want to procreate that or reproduce that. So that is a different mindset. Let's continue.
I heard this. Deontay Kyle said it, but I heard it before I heard him say it. You have a low racial self-esteem. It should be an honor to be with a black woman. It should be a privilege to be with a black woman. It should be standard. It should be traditional.
Okay, that to me, honestly, is where it gets weird. I'm not even gonna lie. And I say this as a black woman. As a black woman, when you start, it starts to get weird to me when we start putting black women on this pedestal and start deifying them, or putting them in a position as if they are almost above the value or above the intrinsic value of black men. If you think about it, it should be honor, right? It should be a privilege. It's these are words to me that would be connected to someone who's royalty, or to something that is considered royal or holy or sacred or unique or separate. And the thing about it is those ideas aren't bad in and of themselves. If we want to say that a black man being with a black woman is it should be an honor, should be prestigious, it should be default standard, whatever. If we want to have those standards, I'm not necessarily mad at that idea, but that means now black women have to make sure that their behavior reflects that. You can't say that it's an honor to marry someone, but then that person doesn't act in a way that's honorable. You can't say that it would be a privilege to marry or to date somebody, but then that person never acts in a way that is respectful or in any way exclusive, never behaves herself with decorum. And this is why I said I have a problem with the term queen. The reason I have a problem with the term queen is I think it's misused, because if you're a queen, then that means that there's a king, there's a kingdom. That means that there's coronation rights. That means there's policies, there's politics, there's responsibilities. You don't act like everyone else. Queens actually have a standard. There is a standard. So the whole modern femininity that I explained earlier in this live, where I said, hey, modern femininity right now is really do you boo. It's find whatever works for you, and that's your standard. But modern femininity, the remove all standards, cannot work for somebody who is a queen. A queen absolutely has standards, a decorum, coronation rights, certain rules she has to abide by. Because if there's no rules, and there's anarchy, there's no order. So you can't have both. You can't have remove all standards, but then want to be a queen, because a queen comes with a certain weight and heaviness. So that's why, the issue I have of trying to give black women these almost angelic, God-like, beyond reproach to a certain extent, these qualities that are high and prestigious, is we want to exist in a culture that cultivates that kind of behavior amongst women. And we really don't. I don't really think we do. I don't really think we do. Let me go back.
To be with a black woman, it should be standard. It should be traditional to be with a black woman.
It is.
For black men.
That is. It's so standard and traditional that it was literally codified in the law. Like, this is why I'm like, I don't understand what she's talking about, because I'm like, history alone like proves this out. History alone. And Black men, even with all the choices, still are the most likely to date and marry Black women. And I said, even the ones who don't want anything to do with American women will oftentimes go abroad and still find Black women. So this is why I'm like, this is probably her personal experience mixed with whatever she's seen on media, which is very common. But she's speaking about a reality that doesn't really exist, in my opinion.
And I know y'all gonna be like, oh, but Amber, I was lost in the sauce. I did not know no better. And I always take it. I always go, you know what? You're right. I did it wrong. I did not do what I am preaching to do right now. Okay. I did not do that. I know better now. When you know better, you do better. And there's not a man right now that's better suited for me than a man that is Black. Just like me. Y'all are not going to like this, but I'm saying it. Y'all can say I'm a hypocrite.
Okay, right? So this is a ex or reformed swirler explaining how and why she's came to the revelation on why Black men are the best for her. Right? So we're talking about what some of you guys would call the swirler reachback, or that is to say the trend of swirler women who basically become pro-Black after having had a few failed relationships with white men. And how do men see that? How do they view that? Shout out to you with the 5. It says the main difference is that the Black men that cross over usually don't attempt to come back. Also, SYSBM has a much higher success rate than swirlers. Right. So shout out to you with the 5. I really appreciate you guys. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. Also show some support, guys. And then the best way to ensure that your comment is actually seen is also through Super Chat or Cash App. Okay, so thank you so much for that. Now, so I wanted to bring that up real quick, just give you guys just a sense, because we're seeing this. And listen, I'm not against women growing and learning from their mistakes, because hindsight is 2020. Like, everybody has something they can learn from and improve on. I'm more interested in how men are looking at this. What the men that these ladies want, what is their reaction to these kinds of scenarios? And so now I want to turn your attention to a video I said I wanted to share, react to briefly, of a content creator that I follow who is in the Pan-African space, right? Or what some may consider the pro-Black space. And I'm thinking, okay, what you'll find is a lot of these ladies, this will happen to them, and then they want to be like, they don't want to just get with like a standard, a Black man who's kind of like with kumbaya or, love is love or whatever. They want to get with the Black man who's like pro-Black, right? Black queens forever. They want to get with the Black queens forever kind of Black man who's never been with a snow bunny, who don't have anything white in his life. You know what I mean? Like, they want that Black man. So it's like, what are those Black men who that is their natural orientation? They believe in Black love. They believe in Black empowerment. They believe in building reality communities and businesses that are about trying to strengthen Black people. Like, what is their reaction to the swirler or pro-Black pipeline? So that's what I want to look a little bit at today, and see how it is that they are reacting to this trend. Okay.
I've dated a white man. I married one. I have the experience. I'm done. This country, the way it is set up, okay, Black men need to be with Black women.
Yeah, we back. Now, brothers, it's going to be a quick video. Now, this one is going to be one of the more egregious case studies that I present to you today. But here we have a subject with multiple biracial children, multiple offspring of mixed race. And for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, maybe I believe it's the conservative climate under President Donald Trump. Maybe that might be the case. But for whatever reason, she came on social media and she said that Black men should be with Black women, right? Now, you know me, brothers, I have no issue with that.
Okay, real quick. Yes, you're saying I did have the panel of the SYSBMers. It says, remember, Shay, we had that SYCBM a few years ago. Some were guests on your channel. They turned out to be against Passport Bros. Okay, so Maybe I'm confused because I kind of thought, after having that conversation, that there was. I'm assuming it's SYSBM. That could have been a typo. But my understanding was that, SYSBM is there, and it's maybe slightly a different camp than Pastor Bros, but I never saw them as antagonistic. I've never seen them as antagonistic. I could be wrong though. I do not pretend to be the expert on this. So do not quote me. I'm just saying this is what I thought to be the case. From what I've observed, I've seen Passport Bros, the ones that I've talked to or observed, have seen, tend to still go for melanated women, still to look for black women, or at least women with Black or African features in some capacity, from what I've observed. Whereas, to my understanding, SYSBM is more like, if there was other side of swirling, it would be SYSBM. Like, these men might be just less open to Black women, period. Whereas Pastor Bros are open to Black women. I saw SYSBM being like, no, they just don't want anything. That's really how I've seen it. But if I'm wrong here, or if I'm misunderstanding, you can please let me know. But I do also appreciate you with the 5 on the super chat. I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledge that. Okay.
Multiple biracial children, multiple offspring of mixed race, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure why. Maybe I believe it's the conservative climate under President Donald Trump. Maybe that might be the case. But for whatever reason, she came on social media and she said that Black men should be with Black women, right? Now, you know me, brothers, I have no issue with that. In fact, I preach the same exact message. And you know me, I don't deal with anything but the Black woman. First of all, first things first. But sometimes I can't help but just shake my head at the audacity and the lack of self-awareness. But anyways, I'm not going to waste no time.
Okay, you're saying, remember OB and Miss Fisher. Yes, you're talking about Miss Courtney Michelle, and then you're talking about We Need to Talk. But they're not. I don't think that they're necessarily. Wait, are you saying that there were a lot of people in the Black community that were against it? I'm trying to understand, because I do remember that there were some Black folks who were vocal against that movement, but I don't remember SYSBMers and Passport Bros beefing. I could be wrong though, but yeah. So, anyways, so now reacting to what he said. If you're looking at this photo. It's kind of funny because you have a Black woman who obviously seems very motivated to get with this, presumably this well-to-do, accomplished Black man, and he's looking at those 2 mixed kids. And this is why, again, my focus with this one is not necessarily what, Black woman's transformation and the revelation, as much as it is, okay, these Black women who are now back in the dating market, how are men perceiving this kind of transformation? How do men look at the swirler to pro-Black pipeline? How do men look at women who were down with the swirl and were deep into that and got married and had kids and even got to where they had now biracial children, but then now they're trying to go back in and then have a Black man be her leader of her and the kids? Like, what is the general perception of that? So, okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at here.
Let's get into the video, man. Let's get into these clips, and I'm gonna come in and out my commentary.
Y'all are not gonna like this, but I'm saying it. Y'all can say I'm a hypocrite. Y'all can say you can't talk, blase, blase, blase. In this country, the way it is set up, okay, Black men need to be with Black women. If you are dating exclusively white women, you need to go to therapy, okay? And unpack that self-hatred that you got. If we lived in a perfect...
Here's the thing. I'm going to say this too real quick. I find that context matters, and the person saying the information matters. Like, a person could be saying something that's true, but if it's not coming in the right package, then people are less likely to take it real, right? Like, for example, we can generally agree that saving is a good thing. Saving is something that's good to do. Saving money is something that's good to do. But if a homeless man that's been on the street for 2 years tries to come up to you and talks about the importance of saving and tries to give you financial advice, you're going to look at him crazy. Be like, sir, you have bigger problems than trying to tell me how to live my life, right? Or eating healthy or having a healthy diet regimen. We can all agree that it's a pretty good thing to do. But if an obese person that's 500 pounds comes up to you and tells you that it's good to be on a healthy diet and then tries to instruct you on why, you're going to look at that obese person crazy. So, in these kinds of scenarios and where a person is giving relationship advice or discourse, what I found is that if any aspect of their life seems contradictory or hypocritical to the advice that they're giving, then that might in very, very many ways, disqualify them. Or at the very least, they will be seen as like just not to be taken seriously at all. And in this case of her saying, okay, Black men need to be with Black women, but you have interracial kids, I'm sure, based upon some of the things that y'all have told me exclusively, that there's going to be a percentage of Black men who just completely exit the building. They're like, we're not hearing a word that we're saying. We are strictly looking at the actions. Okay. I just wanted to continue here.
World where racism and Jim Crow laws and racism didn't exist, I wouldn't give a fuck. Because then love could be love.
All right, we back. I had to stop the clip right there. Now, brother.
Let me let him play, because I was gonna say something, but let me let him play.
Right. This archetype right here, in her own words, she even told you, if we lived in a perfect world, right? If we didn't have to deal with the adversity that comes along with coexisting with the adversary, then I'd be laid up with the adversary right now.
Y'all, okay, you see what he said? Let me say this, as a woman, right? And even as a Black woman, I think certain Black women some Black women have the privilege, to a certain extent, of being clueless to how deep racism or systematic racism, or just, how deep these inequities go. That is to say, I've talked to many Black men who say it's not uncommon for them to just strictly, go to the post office. You walk to the store, you walk certain places, and people are just grabbing their bags. Like, no matter where you go, you're perceived as a threat. So much so that it just becomes a standard way of living. So if you're a Black man and you're used to being perceived as a threat, you are not so confused, or you're not taken aback by the idea that there's still racism, or at least racist people, because that's a reality that you experience every day. You still move on, you still make the best of your life, you still, prosper, do your thing, but you're not so bent out of shape about the idea that there are people out there who don't like you because you're a Black man. That is your day-to-day experience. Whereas women, partially because of the institutional access that we've had, and partially because of, quite frankly, the access and the privileges that we have had institutionally, I think that has blinded us to in some ways to the system that still exists. And I have found in my own life that the thing that wakes Black women up the most to institutional racism is either if they are themselves connected to a Black man or a Black community that is kind of just, teaching them their own history, or if they swirl and it blows up in their face. Primarily, the only time I see Black women really become pro-Black or really be in the know about this stuff is when they swirl and blows up in their face. That's like the majority of the time. That's when I see Black women have this awakening. Now, I'm not saying this is everyone, because as I mentioned before, if you're a Black woman who grows up in a community or in a space where you're already being taught your own community or culture, you're connected to a Black man, and you're really deeply involved with Black men, then you kind of already have that knowledge because you're in a relationship with them. They're telling you their experiences, they're leading you and guiding you, so it's different. So Black women who are already deeply plugged into a Black community have that. But outside of that, I don't ever really hear Black American women specifically really go deep into racism and systematic racism and then Jim Crow and the need for all this kind of different stuff, unless they themselves have had a heartbreak from a white man. That seems to be the thing that wakes a lot of them up. A lot of them. And I'm saying that because, now when we listen to her video, she went on, she kind of alluded to it, and she was like, hey, if we were in a different society where racism didn't exist, then swirling would be fine. But we don't live in that society, so we have to do different. But what she's basically suggesting or showing us is that she didn't have this awareness until she swirled and it blew up in her face or it went wrong. So that again is, these are just the things to really take into consideration. And I also, again, thinking about, okay, how is a man going to see this? Is he going to see this as, do you really love me? And do you love who I am? And do you love my experience as a Black man? Like, what makes me a Black man? Do you love that? Or are you simply looking for insurance? And this is what I feel like I'm seeing men who are noticing these trends. I'm seeing them really ask themselves, do you really love? Are you really, really down for it? For the cause? Are you really about what I'm about? Do you really believe in me and love me? Or have you just figured out that you have no other options but Black men? So these are just things to consider. Okay, I'm going to let him finish.
Right. But because of certain external factors and certain circumstances, that's the only thing stopping me from doing what I really want to do. Right. This right here is not genuine. This is reactionary. Right. She is reacting to the environment around her. She's saying it's because of things that are external going on around me. That's why I feel the way I do. It's not something deep inside me, like a genuine love I got for the Black man and the Black community and the Black family and the Black child. I don't really give a damn about that. And we can see by the evidence of her biracial children. Now, for those of y'all that have been following my channel for a very long time, you remember the day that Donald Trump had won the election, I dropped a video and I basically predicted that things like this would be happening, right? You're going to see individuals who at one time were living a certain way. Now they're going to switch lanes and now they're going to be all about the Black community, right? It always happens when the conservatives get into power, right? All of a sudden, everybody start grabbing their dashikis. Everybody start grabbing their kente cloth. Everybody start, worshiping the ancestors. And then when the Democrats get back in office, everybody start loving on white folk again. It's good cop, bad cop between the Democrats and the Republicans, right? So this lady right here, I'm assuming she's reacting to the hostile environment that comes along with, the conservatives being in office, right? So now because of that, Black men got to be with the Black woman, right? And the problem that I have with her message is when she says that, she's not talking about the Black men like, RG3, guys like that. She's not talking about those Black men. She don't want to be with those Black men. She want to be with the Black man who loves the Black woman. She want to be with the Black man who loves the Black community. She want to be with the Black man who's conscious, got knowledge of self. She want to be with that Black man. Meanwhile, she's carrying multiple biracial children. So
okay, see, and that's what I said. That's what I thought was interesting about what he's saying is it's like you'll notice because these women, they do this like 180 degree, you'll see them saying the kinds of things that you would expect a Dr. Umar, right? Or the people in the Dr. Umar space. And I'm just using him just because I know he's popular, right? He's a popular internet person. So I'm just kind of give you an example. Like you'll see them mirror talking points that you would expect from someone who's in that community, someone who says that they are about trying to build a better reality and everything that comes with that. They're not just looking for just any old Black guy who's kind of like, okay, he wants to assimilate. Love is love. It doesn't matter who you marry. It doesn't mean, they don't have any racial consciousness. It's not that. When you hear this, they're usually like on the far other extreme. So that's what I find so interesting because it's like, if you want those kind of men oftentimes are going to be very, very particular about the kind of ladies you're with. I mean, I've heard even my husband, like we're married now, but when we were dating, he said he put me, I don't know exactly, but he said there was like certain things when he was first getting to know me, like there were certain questions he was asking me to make sure that I didn't have that mindset. Because he was just like, I could never end up with somebody who I knew used to swirl. He was like, it just doesn't match with my politics. I didn't fully understand it. I was like, okay, whatever. It didn't really bother me because I was always into Black men. But I found out like he's not the only one that thinks like that. Like there are Black men out there who are just like, my personal conviction in politics, like I have to be with a woman that has this particular mindset, this orientation, because if I don't, it can get me off track. So yeah, so that's definitely something that I know. So okay, let's continue.
So that's what a disconnect is with me, but that's what happens when you're reactionary and it's not really genuine coming from the heart. Now, anyway, let's continue.
It should be an honor to be with a Black woman. It should be a privilege to be with a Black woman. It should be standard. It should be traditional to be with a Black woman.
Yeah,
for Black men.
All right, we back. Now, everything she said is an absolute fact. In terms of the message, I actually feel the exact same way as she does, right? As a student of history, when I examine all the legendary and honorable men that came before me, and I see the woman they had by their side, to me, it's self-explanatory, right? But the difference is those women had genuine love for the Black man, right? It was not reactionary. It was not performative. It was genuine coming from the heart, right? And on top of that, those women were not coming in the front door with multiple biracial children. So while yes, she made an excellent message, a message that I agree with, right? But coming from her, it invalidates the entire statement. It actually cheapens the value. It lessens the value of the statement coming from you, right? That's the thing. You could have a great message, but when it's coming from the wrong messenger, it actually devalues the statement overall. So now because you said it, now that statement has less value now that you said it. But at the same time, I don't really blame her. I really blame the society and the community for condoning certain behavior to where certain people even feel comfortable opening their mouth when it comes to conversations regarding the black community, right? Because we know goddamn well, if a black man had multiple biracial children and then he hopped on a microphone and started talking about the black community this and the black family this and the black man this and the black woman this, right? Everybody would come together collectively and tell that black man, shut your damn mouth.
Okay, this is one thing I said, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, that there is definitely a different standard between black men and black women with respect to pro-black. It is possible to be a pro-black woman and have a white partner. Historically, you could still be considered or considered an honorated. Yeah, I'm getting hungry. You could still be honored in the black community as a black woman and considered seriously, even though you had a white partner. Like, people would still look to you for black issues, for black concerns as thought leaders. Like, that's been a thing. All you have to do is look at black feminism. If you look at some of the main leaders in black feminism, it is that. It is black women who have space, who have influence, who have a voice, who have platforms, and they had white partners, some of them multiple white partners. And so that is, in my opinion, I believe that is a accepted part of the American ethos, of the American history. Even if we think of some of the most, Eartha Kitt, Maya Angelou, and I'm like, again, you said Maya Angelou, and again, Maya Angelou, she is highly regarded and venerated. And to my understanding, I don't know if she's ever. I mean, maybe I haven't done a deep dive, but I do know that she was with a European. And again, I'm not saying that necessarily is bad in and of itself. But what I am saying, you said she had three white husbands. Ooh, huh. Okay, I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look that up. And I wasn't exactly sure. I do know that she had. I do know that she had some relationships. I remember Lena Horne. She was kind of like the first like black female heartthrob. I think her era was like back in the 20s and 30s. These are old historic figures. But again, I'm saying that because it's okay to do that. Nina Simone, yes, definitely Nina Simone. Diana Ross. No, I don't know if she'd been considered a pro. Yeah, some people go back and forth. But what I'm saying, what I'm basically saying is that it's possible to be a black woman with a white man and still be looked to as a thought leader with respect to black issues. That's what I'm saying. As a black woman, you can still be looked to as a leader, right, with respect to black issues. But that hasn't always been the case for black men. That hasn't always been the case for black men. Now, I do think now in the era of social media where people people can have a voice, you're seeing it. But what I'm saying is, yeah, of course you had black men who were swirling, right? Quincy Jones, right? He was what's his name? Harry Belafonte. Like, you had those Sidney Poitier. They were on the swirl stuff, but they got a lot of criticism. And all I'm trying to say is, my opinion is that there's basically a double standard when it comes to this. Ain't no way a black man is getting up there with some mixed biracial kids with good hair, and black women themselves are not going to say something. If they see a black man with light-skinned black kids with quote unquote good hair and quote unquote good features, they're laughing him out of the building. They are going to because black women know how to speak. They know how to make the whole world know what they want to say. They know how to make themselves heard. We have that ability. Black American women do. So there's no way they would allow that. But let it be a black woman that, like, there's space for it. It's like, oh, what's the numbers? It's the numbers. Oh, well, she was loved. Or it was because black men are colorist. So because black men are colorist, now therefore I need to be colorist. You know what I mean? Like, so I definitely think there's been a double standard. And the reason I say that I think to be empirically true is because all we have to do is look at literally the law itself. Like the double standard is so deep that it was codified in the law. You didn't see Black women getting unalived or lynched for being with white men. Like it kind of, people just culturally knew that Black women and white men had sex, and that's just kind of what they did. They looked the other way. I was like, okay, whatever. He's just having fun. But if a Black man got with a white girl, you know, at a particular time in history, he was unalived, and it was like a public spectacle. So that's what I'm saying. It's like there's always been a double standard with respect to that. Okay, I want to acknowledge you got real quick with the some super chat. Shout out to you with the 2. It says, "How have Umar and his Black wife been?" What Black wife? All right, you what? I think you're being funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't. I've always thought if I ever interviewed Dr. Umar, if I ever interviewed him, I think one of my first questions would be, what has kept him from finding a Black wife? And if in all of his travels across the globe, he hasn't found a Black woman that's worth marrying, that is saying some very negative things about the state of Black women. Like, it's suggesting that. If what you're saying is you haven't found one good Black woman in all of the diaspora and all of the globe, then that's not saying very positive things about the state of Black women. So that's why I would ask, because I'm like, I can't imagine that he was saying that Black women everywhere are unmarriageable. I can't imagine he would say that. But that's, to me, is what that suggests. Here it says it is a double standard because of community ties. Yeah, that's true. I completely agree. Here it says, just say no to runner-up trophies. So it's just like, it's a hard no. Like, no, you don't want to feel like you are somebody's second, third, fourth choice. Like, you don't want to feel like you're just leftovers. And then that's understandable. Again, we're talking about, what do the men want? What do men think about these things? I understand. This one says I could write a book about her sister. Okay. This one says, I'm so glad I have a good Black wife. We've been married for 5 years, have 2 kids. Oh, God, shout out to you. Congratulations. She wears her natural hair and calls out goofy Black women. Some of her family members are failed swirlers, including her sister. Oh, wow. That's different. Oh, and then you're saying, okay, I could write a book about her sister. Wow. You said failed swirlers. Shout out to you for the Black love. I love it. I'm happy to hear that you were able to find someone and you guys are building a beautiful life together. Shout out to you both. Here it says, a side note, SYCBM, not, okay, that's what I meant. Wait, I'm confused. Are you saying, side note, SYCBM, not SYCBM earlier? Like, is there a SYCBM I'm not aware of? Sorry, I'm like, because you're saying that it is SYCBM, it's not SYCBM. That's how I'm reading that. Okay, here it says SYCBM is against the culture, not against Black women. SYCBM is anti-culture. Okay. Yeah, and I remember, I can't think of his name. There was one SYCBMer, I can't think of his name. I think he was a blogger way back in the day who had some very disparaging things to say about Black women that were just like, and he, to me, from what I read, it sounded like he just didn't like Black women, period. It didn't sound like it was like, oh, anti-Keisha, these certain Black women. It sounded like he was like, no, all Black women. I remember, now this is a few years ago. This is, I think, before I had the chance to have the live. I'd have to see if I can even find it. It may not even be there anymore. And I also understand some blogs, some posts are just dudes who are just getting their feelings out, or just it's just a place to express themselves. It's not about trying to appeal or be politically correct. It's just you need space to vent. Okay, this one here, it says, remember OB? Yeah, okay, I think I talked about that. Okay, so I think I got those super chats. Thank you guys for that support. Also, shout out to you with the love on the Cash App. I see you, Amara Bay. I really appreciate it. Much love, much love. I just wanted to make sure I acknowledge you. Appreciate all of you guys. That go the money. Okay, so let's continue with this because
But for whatever reason, In this scenario, we just allow individuals like this to run their mouth and nobody checks them. Nobody takes them to the side and say, listen, man, you're looking crazy. And at this point, I've made so many videos on this phenomenon that it's kind of ridiculous, right? It's like the same thing happens over and over again, right? They go jump outside the race. They have relations outside the race. Then they come back to the black man sounding like they just came from the Underground Railroad. Like, I don't know what would happen, man. Like, I really be wanting to know what be going on over there, that when they come back to the black man, all of a sudden it's all black everything, right? I really want to know what be going on in these relationships, that when you come back, all of a sudden you got to grab the Kente cloth out the closet. All of a sudden you got to get the Amos Wilson books off the bookshelf. We got to figure out what be going on in these relationships behind closed doors, man.
Now that's interesting. It's like, what is so dramatic? Like, what has happened? What is going on to where these women are having such these like life altering changes? What is it? Now, I know if you look at Only Logical, his page, I mean, you don't want to talk about divested disasters, because I got a whole divested disasters playlist. I mean, he goes deep. All he does is just look at these divested disasters, this divesting gone wrong, Swirler sagas, whatever you say it. Right? So we can, you know, make some assumptions. Listen, I know personally in my own life, I have people in my family, some of my closest friends who are married to white men, and they go through challenges just like every couple. I know of some who just seem like they worship white men and they pay all their bills. I was actually talking to a black woman the other day, earlier this week. And it's funny because the funny thing is, now she's more in the boomer generation. But we were talking and she was telling me that she was married to a white man. Now, granted, she grew up in a white community. She was like, it was the only black people in her family were like, or the only black people in the community was them. So she grew up in a white community. She married a white man, but she wanted to tell me that she was like, I don't know whatever ideas people have about interracial relationships now, but I was paying everything. When we were married, I was paying the bills. This is what she told me. Now, she's not married to him anymore. She actually divorced, and now she's married to a black man. But she's like, I don't know what these ideas that they got, but I was paying the bills when I was with this white man. This is what she told me. Literally, I just had this conversation earlier this week. Now, this is a black boomer, but I'm saying that because it's like, when you actually look at what's going on to real life versus what people be posting on social media, you see it's a big difference. But we do know that the DV is real. And we do know some of this stuff ends up 6 feet under. Like some of those cases that I've covered off, I know I'm probably Only Logical. I probably got to go back. He probably has a whole dialogue of like what black wives and black girlfriends getting unalived, not like backhanded, even not like, you know, nothing like that. These women end up under the ground. They end up dismembered and their body parts are like across the beach. I'm not saying this is all the case, but I'm just saying like we do be seeing that. We do be seeing that. We see women missing and just not, you know what I mean? Seen some cases of that. That's why I covered up the shot at the Robinson. We've seen the case of the ladies ending up in like refrigerators and freezers. Like I've seen a few of those. So we know that there's a cultural difference. I've also heard some of you guys mention how what happens is that these white men just are not used to black women. They're not used to women talking back in the way black women talk back. And some of these white men, they just can't handle it. And so they might get a little more aggressive or violent because they don't exist in a culture where they had like their mamas yelling at them or whatever. So they don't know how to handle that aggressive energy, whereas black men do. And even that swirler that I shared earlier this week, the one who was putting other swirlers on blast was talking about that. She was like, these white men, they don't understand how to handle black women. They don't understand how to check them. So we can only guess, but I think we have some clues. So, okay.
That when they come back to the community, all of a sudden it's all black everything. Anyway, let's continue.
I know y'all gonna be like, oh, but Amber, I was lost in the sauce. I did not know no better. And I always take it. I always go, you know what? You're right. I did it wrong. I did not do what I am preaching to do right now. I did not do that. I know better now. When you know better, you do better. And there's not a man right now that's better suited for me than a man that is black.
Right
now, brothers, You have to understand, if you're somebody like me, you're going to run into this. You might run into this on your journey, right? If you're a black man like myself and you profess to only deal with the black woman, there's going to be, like, when a black woman hears that, her ears are going to perk up, right? So, oh, you're a black man, you only deal with the black woman. They admire that. They like that. They're going to take a liking to that. They're going to be attracted to that. The thing is, though, you're going to attract a lot of women who might not be for you, right? They like the fact that you're a black man, you love yourself, you love your community, you love your people, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be equally yoked with her. Right? She just might simply be flattered by the fact that you love the black woman, but that doesn't mean that she loves the black man, though, right? That's the thing. She might like the idea of the fact that you got a decent head on your shoulders, but that doesn't mean that you and her are compatible, right? As you can see in this case, right? She got 2 biracial children, but that doesn't stop her from talking all this, oh, black family, the black power, the black this, that, and the third, right? So along your journey of life, you're going to meet women like this. You're going to meet this archetype. You're going to run into this archetype. She's going to talk your head off about black this and black that. And then once you dig into her history, you're going to realize a lot of discrepancies and inconsistencies, right? But that's what you got to understand what to look for. As a black man, you got to understand what questions to ask, what to look for, to really dissect the mentality.
I'm going to say this, and I know people like this, and this is no shade, but like I have friends like this. I have one acquaintance. She was married to a cop. Cop ended up getting caught up in some scandal with prostitutes, and it was a mess. It kind of went like, I don't know if it went national, but it definitely made the states. Cop got, discharged and the whole thing, and it was a mess. She left him. Now she's married to a black man with more kids, but she got 2 sets of kids with the white man, and then she has some sets of kids with her black husband. What I'm saying is now she'll talk about, she's very aware of the black family and the system that's against the black family and all kind of different stuff. But she didn't really necessarily recognize that until she had her ex, who was a cop, get caught up, and she's dealing with child support. And it's a black woman versus a white man who's connected to the law enforcement, and they're in family courts. And I know they say family courts are generally on the side of men. I mean, generally on the side of women. But when you add that race dynamic, and then you add the dynamic of somebody who's connected to law enforcement, it makes it very particular. So that was a big wake-up call for her. So I'm saying, I know anecdotally I've seen this, I've observed this with some ladies who they get burned. They have these really traumatizing situations, and then it causes them to recognize that, like, not all things are equal, Okay.
See if you're dealing with someone who really got genuine love for the black man and really is about what she's talking about, or if you're dealing with somebody who might be reactionary, or it might be performative, or it might not really be genuine coming from the heart, or she might be going through a phase right now. She might be going through her black phase right now, and then she's gonna be over that, in a little bit, right? You're gonna run into these different archetypes. So, don't get bamboozled, don't get tricked off the street, don't get bamboozled by the sweet words. Trust me, it's not genuine. It's not coming from the heart. She said it herself, right? If the environment was different, I'd be doing something different, right? It's not because of what you genuinely feel. So when it comes to me, listen, I've loved black women since I was a little boy, right? Since I was a little boy, 3rd, 4th grade, as long as I can remember, I've had an attraction and admiration for the black woman. When it comes to her, it's not the same, right? Maybe because Donald Trump is in office, and she's witnessing all the hostility and the, passive aggressive racism in the environment. So now she wants to, retreat back to the community. But it's not because she really got love for her community or she really got love for the black man, though. That's the thing you got to decipher. You got to decipher if you're dealing with a woman who really got love for the black man, or if she's really cosplaying, or she's being performative, or she is being reactionary. She's reacting to the environment, and because of that, she wants to go run and cuddle up under a black man. But it's not because she got any genuine love for the black man. So as a black man, you got to be able to decipher if the woman I'm dealing with, does she have genuine love for the black man? Is she about what she says? Or is she simply just saying what I want to hear? Or she might be going through a phase, or you know what I mean? But trust me, you're going to run into this a lot, right? You're going to run into this a lot, and you got to be able to really decipher whether it's genuine or it's counterfeit or it's fraudulent. And a lot of times they'll admit it themselves, just like in this video, she actually exposed herself. But to me, what I'm most amazed is the lack of self-awareness, right? Knowing deep down, if a black man had multiple biracial children, she would look down upon that man. But she believes that a black man would be accepting and accept her with open arms, right? And that's because, like I said, we've kind of cultivated an environment where women like this actually feel comfortable opening their mouth. I got to just put it in blatant terms. A woman like this shouldn't even feel comfortable talking to the black man about anything. Period. That's what I feel. A woman like this don't even talk to the black man about nothing. At the very least, you should have the self-awareness to know that the black man that you're looking for, the black man who actually believes the message you're trying to promote, the black man that believes that the black man should be with the black woman, you should have enough self-awareness to know that that man would never choose to be with the woman who's carrying 2 biracial children, let alone a woman who ever dated outside the race. You should have enough self-awareness to know that that black man is looking for his counterpart, and you've already disqualified yourself due to the physical evidence, the physical manifestation of those mixed race offspring. So like I said, man, the lack of self-awareness, the lack of shame, it's a lot of stuff going on over here, man, as you can see. Anyways, let's continue.
but there is a price to that. There comes at a cost. I have to pay it. I have to pay it every single time I meet a man who's pro-black. I have to take that. I have to wear that I married a white man and I have mixed children. I have to wear that. That's a cost. Okay? That man may not be interested in me. He may go, you know what? Amber, I don't want to deal with a woman who has already done that. I want to deal with a woman who does exactly what I do, who's
Yeah.
always dated black, married black, been black.
All right, time out. You see, as a man of integrity, I can admit, I can take back when I said a statement that was inaccurate, right? Earlier in the video, I said that she had no shame and she had no self-awareness. I take that back because, as you can see, regardless of her audacity to even open her mouth regarding anything about the black man, she still has enough self-awareness to know that the black man that she is looking for, the black man that she would desire to be with, she already knows that that black man ain't looking for her.
Okay, so right, and so and this is why I've said this, how I am all for, I think people need to have space to grow, learn, evolve, because that's just a human experience. Like, it really is. People make mistakes all the time, and I think especially in the black community, having grace for people to learn better and do better, because so many people were just not set up for success, right? So I'm never going to be mad at a woman's journey to try to evolve and heal and improve herself, because I understand a lot of ladies were not set up for success. With that said, however, I don't think that means that men have to accept just whatever they get. Like, men can still have the standards that they're going to deal with a lady who didn't have to go through a healing journey, post-divorce, post multiple baby daddies, post-swirling, post whatever, post being a lesbian and then bi and then pans and then trying to be a man, but then not being a man. Like, you can be a man that still has standards for your ladies. Two things can be true at once. You can respect somebody's personal journey, but that don't mean you're trying to date them. And so, she's sitting there and she's acknowledging that although she's come to these revelations, or now this is how she's moving, that there's just a certain percentage of black men who just don't want nothing to do with her strictly because of her past. And that's actually very true. This is why I do think ladies who don't take relationships and things seriously early on, like, I think they really need to, because they don't understand how men perceive them. Like, they really be thinking that they can just do whatever they want and then wake up one day and have a self-love journey and then be a born-again virgin after they make a prayer, and that men are going to see them like Jesus do. And it's like, no, God sees you as spotless and blameless after you do that stuff, right? Or God's going to have grace on you, but that don't mean man's going to have grace. They going to see you for all the things you done did from day one. They going to see you all those things. They're going to judge you through that lens. Many of them will. And maybe, you may have some people who are gracious here and there, but just my point is, like, you can't shame men into trying to accept a woman who's made hella mistakes. You can't shame men into trying to accept a reformed anything. Some men may do it, but some may not. And that's just what it is. That's really just what it is.
Right. So at least she is intelligent enough to know that the black man that I would like to, get close to, he's not looking for her. She don't meet the criteria. So at least I can salute the fact that she understands and has respect for the black man, at least in that capacity, right? Because she knows if the roles were reversed and a black man came into the front door with multiple biracial children, she would look at that man sideways. And she knows that. True. So at least she understands and acknowledges that, right? I've done videos on certain women where they have no shame, right? They just full of audacity. At least this one is coming with some level of humility, understanding, listen, I already know y'all don't want me. I get it. I respect that. Now let's continue.
I was coming from a place of concern for our whole community as a whole, because I know it starts as a family unit, because it's not a matter of when. Sorry, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When that shit is no longer suiting you, because this world, this country is only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse.
Once again, like I told you, brothers, her alleged love for the black man is only reactionary due to the environment around her.
Yeah, see, that's that part right there. I think, how is somebody to know if a person is coming from a place of genuine love and genuine interest versus out of survival, is starting to look at the things that they are talking about and focusing on. Like, if all they can say is, it's going to get bad, it's going to get worse. We need each other. We need, like, if everything is coming from that place of basically, I need protection, I need provision or whatever, then you can come to the conclusion that it's not necessarily that they have a unique or genuine love for the community, Perhaps it's more just the necessity of a community. And again, I mentioned there's a difference. There's a difference between understanding that there's a necessity for a community versus really genuinely loving it. And some people are maybe fine. Some people are maybe fine with the idea of just being with someone who sees a necessity. Some people are cool with that. But if you're like a man who you grew up and you really love your community, your people, you want to be with a woman who has that. You don't want to be with a woman who's just there out of convenience or necessity or because she feels like it's not safe. Because as he said, the challenge is if the environment now gets back to a place where it feels safer, is that love going to be there? Or is there going to be love that was developed? So I do think sometimes, like, even being able to know if someone is genuine or not, it's starting to take a look at the things that they're really interested in. Like, what are they doing? What are they supporting? Everybody can go up here and talk and do things, but are they in their day-to-day life actually building connections and building reality? Are they supporting Black-owned businesses? Are they in organizations or community building organizations that are about building that ecosystem? Are they working alongside men who are working in organizations that are pouring into the Black community? Like, what are you doing? Who are you rocking with, supporting? So I really think it brings up larger questions, but I definitely do think like the survival instinct. Yeah, I do definitely think survival instinct starts to kick in. Shout out to you again with the 10. It says the problem Black women have is the culture is matriarchal and is incompatible with most other men not from the community. Black women not raised in the community have a much easier time dating, marrying out. Yeah, basically, I think what you're saying is like, yeah, the community, aka the degenerate, basically like the degenerate stereotypical culture that's shoved all over mainstream media, like the stuff that I hate, the stuff that many of us hate, that projects the most negative degenerate aspects of Black community. So again, shout out to you for the support. I appreciate it. Okay, we're almost
the political climate or something like that, right? The environment, the country. It's not because of something internal. It's not because she got a genuine love for the Black man. It's because the environment around her is causing her to react in a certain way, right? She's reactionary. She don't got no genuine love for the Black man. And I predicted that you would see this type of reaction during the Trump administration. Now, brothers, a woman who genuinely got love for the Black man, that love does not change based on the political climate, based on the environment, right? That means that if the environment changes tomorrow, her love for the Black man is also going to change. That's why I say, man, it's performative. It's not genuine. And unfortunately, it's a lot of this going on in the environment. That's why you got to be like damn near an intelligence agent in order to decipher what's real and what's not. Anyway, let's continue.
I'm not going to say anything about you guys. Do what you want. You guys are grown, strong, smart, intelligent men. And I think you got it. I think you got it. Who am I? I was punching way above my belt to even have an opinion. I just don't. So you're absolutely correct. I do. I give up. I truly do. All I ask is that you keep Black women out your mouth. Don't talk about Black women because you don't deal with Black women. You don't date Black women. You're not involved with Black women. You don't love Black women. You don't respect Black women. So keep us out of your mouth. Deal and talk about, complain about the women that you are dealing with.
Now, in that video, she was basically lashing out because some brothers in the comment section was basically saying, listen, you have multiple mixed race offspring, shut your mouth. We ain't trying to hear that nonsense. And then she lashed out and then she got upset and, I understand. But
we are very, as a woman, right? Like, and this is no judgment. I can just say this just from experiential. Like, we are a very emotional species. We really are. I mean, men are, to be a human being means we have emotions, but it's like, it's hard. I think it's just harder. I think it's harder sometimes for ladies to really hold an L when it comes to those things. Because partially because of the culture, partially because the culture is not as hard on women when it comes to these kinds of standards, these communal or community expectations. So a woman puts herself out there and she's acknowledging the fact that she's made a mistake. It's going to be hard for her to receive the backlash and stuff associated with it. Like, that's not fun. I mean, it's never fun to be criticized, but I just think, I don't know. I just think sometimes it's a little harder for women to receive that particular kind of accountability, partially because I don't think the culture cultivates that kind of accountability the way it does men. Like, put another way, It's very, 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 very standard and popular to critique the dating standards and the desires of men, and it's not popular to do so for women. Now, since the manosphere and social media and just men being more vocal in general on these spaces, I think it's changing. It's creating a different culture. But for a very, very long time, it was standard and it was normal to critique men's dating standards and say, oh, he's misogynistic if he wants a woman who looks this particular way, or he's misogynistic if he talks about he wants a woman with big breasts or big booty or whatever. Like it was very common to do that, but it was like you didn't talk about, you wouldn't judge a woman for what she wanted. Even if you saw a woman who was like dating a dude 20 years younger than her, like you don't judge her for it. You don't dare criticize her. You don't dare, like, she has the right to do what she wants to do. Even if you can think about the whole situation with Macron and his wife and that situation that happened a few weeks ago, and we figure out they're like 30 plus years apart, right? And that she met her now husband when that was her student. And they began a relationship when he was a child. And I'm listening to this story and I'm like, wait, what? Like, if the genders are reversed, that, first of all, she would have been in prison. That man would have been in prison. If we found out there was a man who started a romantic relationship with a student when they were a teenager, like, he'd be in prison. But because she was a woman, there was more space for her to do that. And then there's not, like, no one, like, we're not criticizing, like, she doesn't get the same scrutiny. It's just a unique, out of the box, unconventional love story because she's a woman who was age gapping. So that's what I'm saying. It's like we exist in a culture where men, it's used, like, we're used to criticizing the dating expectations or just the dating desires of men. We're not used to doing so for women. So I think when women start to receive that same heat, it's very hard for them. And they may lash out a little bit because they're just not used to it as much. That's just my opinion, y'all.
No, baby girl, listen, as somebody who, like myself, I deal with the Black woman exclusively, right? I have a level of respect for the Black woman that is ancestral. But I'm sure, as you already know, as you previously stated, the Black man that is on that level, you know, mentally, spiritually, and intellectually, you already know that that Black man has way better candidates to choose from who is on his same level mentally, spiritually, psychologically, right? So my recommendation to you is to get with a brother, you know, somebody similar to you, right? Get with a Black man who was also chasing after the white woman, sniffing the white woman's behind, right? Chasing after the white girls. And now he wants to run back to the Black woman. You need to get with a Black man like that, right? A Black man who was chasing after the white girls. And now he wants to come back talking about Black power, Ungawa, I am Malcolm X reincarnated. You need to get with that Black man because that Black man is your reflection. That Black man is your natural counterpart. And then you guys can get together and have, you know, a whole, you know, mixed Black family, right? With your mixed race kids and, you know, his mixed race kids. And then you guys can make, you know, new Black kids together, right? That is more compatible. I think if women in your situation chase after Black men like that, I think you'd find way more success. I think that trying to chase after, like you said, when you run into the Black men who are kind of, you know, on a higher level intellectually, you notice that they kind of push back against you and they don't really want to deal with that. Yeah, I think you're going to run into a brick wall trying to chase after those Black men. I think you should chase after the Black men who are more so in your weight class, right? The reformed Black men who used to sniff after the white woman's butt and now they want to come and be pro-Black again. Listen, you have to be with those Black men.
Okay, so he's basically saying, like, listen, if you went from the swirler to pro-Black pipeline, you need to find the men that did the exact same thing. The problem or the challenge is I don't tend to see a lot of Black men who went from the swirler to pro-Black pipeline. I don't really feel like I see that. Like, y'all let me know if I'm mistaken, but I don't feel like I really see that as much. Like, I feel like if I see a Black man who goes out, like, either he just stays there, or if he's dating out, like, he's not trying to be necessarily, he's not trying to make himself the leader. Like, he's just finding what works for him and he's not necessarily trying to build like Wakanda. Like, I feel like I don't really see that. Like, I don't see the counterpart of a swirler to pro-Black pipeline for Black men. I don't. But if it exists, y'all let me know down in the comments. Also, shout out to you, Russell, with the 10 on the Cash App. It says that woman wants a Black man to help her financially and to help her raise that white man's children. I'm sure that helps. I'm definitely sure. She mentioned the economic and she mentioned the social climate. So I know she's wanting some security because she mentioned that. Right? So, okay.
Leave the black men alone who are, you know, who love themselves, who love their people, love their community. Leave those black men alone. Those black men aren't bothering anybody. Don't come bother them with all your mixed race children. Leave those black men alone. Do not derail them off their path to success and prosperity. You are going to be a distraction and an obstacle on the road to success. Anyways, it's your boy Neferkar. That's Swirling back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash app in the description. Support the channel. Support the Patreon. NTD 1814. Support the album. Sahel 1816. Go to my homepage. Go to my playlist section. Enjoy the album. And I'm gone. Peace.
Okay, so yeah, so that's what we got. Neferkar. Again, I wanted to shout out to him. He has a pretty cool page. Yeah, he has a good page. Pan-African page. He talks a lot about stuff that's happening across the diaspora. I enjoy his stuff, but I wanted to get his take. I wanted to get his take on the swirling and divesting because, as I mentioned at the beginning, like what you will see for a lot of these ladies is that when they want to go back to the black space, they want to go back to the black man who's never dated white, who's never swirled, who's never, like they want to go with the Black Queens Forever black man. They don't want a black man that's ever dabbled in the snow. They want the black man who is trying to build the next Wakanda, right? Who's speaking Swahili, who goes to Africa every month or, you know, or every year, right? Like that's the black man that they want. So I wanted to hear from black men who actually have that orientation and hear what they think about the swirler to pro-black pipeline. So that's what we look at. You said black men don't swirl. This one says, yeah. Oh, Russell Wilson's the first black millionaire. Yeah, no, they love Russell Wilson. They love him. They love him. A lot of the ladies love him. They love the way that he treats his wife, the way that he allows Sierra to basically doing the same thing she was doing before she got married to him. They just love that couple. You know, they love it. So now real quick, lastly, I wanted to go over some of the feedback that I got from the video that I posted earlier today. Shout out to you with the $9.99. I appreciate it. Okay, let's see what we got. I wanted to, let me go here. Okay, let me see. So this is the video that I shared earlier. Can black swirlers be redeemed? And then examine this swirler reachback. So what I wanted to do was just look at some of the comments that y'all left. Thought it was kind of funny. Again, shout out to you with the super sticker. I appreciate it. And then if you want, you guys, I'm gonna have to wrap up this call soon. But if you guys want to have a session where you just call in and talk about this, y'all let me know down in the comment section. Like if you want to have a chance to just call in and discuss this whole topic, you guys let me know, then I can follow up at a later date and just have people call in and just share their whole perspective on the swirler to pro-back pipeline. Because I was originally going to try to open up the call-ins if I had some time, but it's getting kind of late. So I'm going to have to wrap this up soon. But if there's enough interest, then I can do a part 2 and we can do like a call-in. So y'all just let me know down in the comments. Okay. So now here it says, let's see. Actually, let me try to, I'm going to try to, what's going on? 18th letter. Good to see you. Okay. So you said, let's do a call in. Okay. So y'all, looks like you guys want to do a time where we call in and talk about this and y'all examine the swirler to pro-black pipeline. Yes, call in. Okay. So I can definitely do that. I'll try to schedule this another time. I'm gonna be traveling again. My sister is graduating, so if I don't do it within the week, I'll do it after. We'll see. I know my schedule over the next 2 weeks is gonna be busy, but yeah. Okay. If you guys want to do a call in, yeah, I'll try to get that in soon because I know this is pretty much gonna be an ongoing conversation because y'all, it's getting real out here for a lot of these ladies, and we are gonna see some ladies hit the survival mode. And I think that also brings up some really important questions of how does a man know? How does a man know if a woman is just only on the reach back, like she's just straight survival, looking for somebody to pay her bills, versus if she is genuine? How is a man to know? So I think it brings up some really good questions, or some really interesting questions. Like, what is the critique? As I mentioned, my husband straight told me, he was, when we first started dating or started talking, he said that there was little things that he asked to vet me, right? And ladies, we talk so much about vetting, but we forget that men vet too. They have their own things. So he said there's things that he asked to vet me to make sure that I wasn't the kind, because he's very much in the train of like, I could not get with somebody that I knew swirled. This is what he told me, because just of his politics, and just he felt like that just would not work for him. Like, this is psychology, it just wouldn't work for him. So it definitely brings up. You said her social media. Yeah, that's true. That's real true. The social media can say a lot. He did actually say he checked my social media. Come to think of it, he did say that. Okay. So let's go back to some of these comments, and then I'm going to read some more of the super chats that came through. Okay, here it says, wait, where'd you go? Wait, sorry. I'm going to remove this. I'll command this. Okay, so here it says, pro-Black only limits Black men's options. Most, if not all, divestors have a big problem with Black men dating out for two reasons. First, it eats into the narrative that Black men are undateable, which is the reason they use to justify their interracial desires. Second, it reminds them that Becky, Ayaka, and Juanita are still out here competing and eating away at their base. Dang. I mean, I think that's bars. I can't even say that I necessarily disagree with him, because as I mentioned before, like, yeah, the whole I'm pro-Black woman, therefore I date out and divest is the most confusing thing ever to me. And what you see, the craziest thing about this movement is the ladies who justify dating out because they say Black men are colorist. And I'm like, you literally are judging Black men for being colorist, and your solution is to now go try to date and marry the men who are the most colorist historically, like the ones who are actually responsible for creating the system of colorism, the caste system. Like, that don't make no sense. So this comment right here, that's bars. Because what you're seeing is that, like, it's not true. It's propaganda. And we know it's propaganda when you just start to examine it, even just minutely, and you find that don't nothing make no sense. It don't make no kind of sense. So I have to say, I definitely agree with that. Okay, let me do this for the top comments. Says here, the divestor reachback is crazy. This one says, Black woman like Shay is hard to find. She's logical and stunning. Blessings to her and her husband. Salute. Shout out to you, Rich Franklin. It says, where exactly where the Black woman like her at? There. Okay, here's the thing about it. Like, Black women be out there, but I feel like the good ones be really quiet. They're hidden doing their own thing. They're not online like that all the time, or they're busy raising their families. But like I said, I've been thinking about this, like, how can I help? Because I mean, that's partially why I started with the dating consulting. I was like, there needs to be a way to kind of connect these like-minded people, because I feel like I be meeting like individuals all the time that are hella dope. But then it's like getting these people connected to the right people, making those connections. So definitely working on that. But that's partially why I started with the relationship consulting. This one right here, it says they need to stop with the reach back. It's not working. Yeah. Okay, let me see. Shout out to productive Black men and accountable commentary. Yeah, some of you guys are mentioning accountable commentary. That's where I heard the term reach back came from y'all. But then I heard that term came from the content creator accountable commentary, who does not like Black women at all, and does not, to my understanding, does not believe that Black men should deal with Black women, period. So I don't think he would really appreciate my page or pages like that, because I think he is just completely anti-Black love, because he believes pretty much all Black women are Keishas, to my understanding, and that it's just not worth kind of sifting through the hay to try to find the needle in the haystack. That's what the little that I've heard from him. I don't think he believes there's even really a point. But nevertheless, I think his content's penetrating, and people agree. Black men agree with his points. So I think that's worth taking note of. It says, controls be redeemed. Nope. Yeah, this person's like, not interested. Let me see.
Yeah, this one says, girl I used to know did not care about being black in the sense of being black. Yet despite this, she never dated a black boy or black man, got married to a non-black man, and likely got divorced. Now on her social media, she's trying to be part of the Democratic Party, campaigning in my town for black folk. Yeah, because when it comes to those kinds of things, like they're you can't take this stuff seriously. I'm sorry. You can't play both sides. Like, to me, it's not even serious. That's just all political. This one over here says, I'll never trust them. This one says, pro-black is all about saving the black family. You step out, please keep your watered version away. So y'all are like, nah, that's a no. That's an absolute no. No, they need to stay over there. I've seen that. So that's a big no. I view that like I view DL men. Once you do that, you have to stay over there. Your credibility is gone. Nothing you do over here is genuine. Your mere presence here would only cause confusion and problems. Yeah, this one here is interesting too. It says Redeem doesn't take our point of view into consideration. We don't care what they did. We say no to the reach back. We are good. And that's a big thing I'm saying. I'm noticing with these comments, and why I think, yeah, we'll do a part 2 where we can do a call and you guys can speak more to this, right? Because it's like the issue becomes whether or not men are going to accept it. And Mr. Z, shout out to him. He mentioned this in the last live what he did, where we kind of had a conversation, and he was like, yeah, I do believe a black woman can be redeemed. That is to say, she can have a revelation and start to understand these things. But that the question isn't whether or not a black woman can change or can gain more knowledge. The question is whether or not a black man is going to accept her under those conditions. And so that is what I found to be really interesting. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation, or thought to have this conversation, because it brings up a lot. It definitely brings up a lot. So let me see. So it seems to me that's a no. Man, yes, woman, no. No damaged goods. Pro-black means pro-black woman. Okay, so I want to do a part 2 with the call-ins. Look, I can say this. I have about like 10 to 15 more minutes. I can do a call-in for if you're a member. If you are a member, you can call in. I have like 15 more minutes, and then I can do a part 2 on this because I know you guys mentioned that you wanted to do that. So I can try to do a whole nother where we just call in and have this conversation at a later time. But with about 10 minutes, I can drop the link for members. And then if you've shown some support on Cash App, all that kind of stuff, if you're consistent supporters, then you can also call in. And I'll do this short. I'll keep this one short because I do need to wrap this up. It's getting late over here. I need to think about dinner and all that stuff. And then I can do a part 2 for those of you guys who want to have some more time and we just hash this out, because I think it sounds like there's some interest there. And yeah, so call in for members only, and also those who have shown some support. Okay, so I have a few minutes. And then, as I mentioned, if I can't get to you, then we're going to do a part 2. He said, how do you become a member? Right here. I'm going to drop this link real quickly. Also, I think if you go into the actual description of the video, you'll see stuff there. But for you guys who want to become a member, yeah, you can become a channel member, join the membership. And we can chat. Also, join my Discord. Members get access to my Discord, which that reminds me. And give me 1 second. Right here. Okay. Also, because in the interest of time, let's try to keep these, let's just try to be mindful of time. Because I'm going to have a few of you guys. Okay. So, hey, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing? This is the first time I've been listening to your show for the last 5 years.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm not going to be here too long, but I just want to say I really enjoy it, and I'm glad you brought this up because, I just sent you a $2 super chat just a moment ago, and I've been a victim of a reachback divestiture when I was engaged for like 3 years, and my previous relationship, the lady was married to a white man for like 10 years.
Okay.
And can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of background. Oh yeah, there's a lot of background noise.
Yeah, okay, I was outside and everything else.
Sorry
But
about
I
that,
was
Miss
just,
Shay. Sorry
Oh, was
about
that
that.
you? Okay, no problem.
hey, what's going on, 18th letter? How you doing? Haven't heard from you in a while.
I'm doing well, brother. How you doing
I'm
today?
doing
Can
good.
can you all hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
But
me
yeah,
too.
I've been a victim. I've been a victim of a reach back before and everything else. And like I said, my last she was my fiance and everything else. We were together for 3 years and we got engaged. And she had previously been married for 10 years to a
Mhm.
white guy. And she got divorced because she caught him cheating in the last 5 years. And she was telling me stories about how she nearly just almost took her life because
Wow.
yeah, because she was just in a terrible relationship. She didn't know how to get out of it. And then the fact that she called him cheating, it was her justification to file for divorce and get out of that relationship and
Yeah.
everything else. When I first met her, we were just friends and everything else.
Mhm.
But what I saw was a woman who I thought, you know, had moved beyond her marriage and also moved beyond her personal tragedy when she lost her father a year after she filed a divorce from him.
Mm.
But when I moved in, when she basically begged me to move in and everything else, because that way, it would help me save money and everything else. I was driving. I had to end up when I moved in at her place. I was driving 45 minutes away from my job after I was only about 15 minutes away from the job and everything else. First 6 months were great, but the last 6 months when she got a nice little job at a company called Chase,
Mhm.
things just started downhill and everything. Even when I proposed to her and everything else.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I just saw a lady that just, kind of deteriorated and thought, you know what? Because I'm making a lot more money than this guy, this black guy who works hard and everything else, works paycheck for check. I guess in her mind, she just thought, I don't need you anymore and everything. I don't know what happened, but there was a lot of I noticed a lot of some mental despair on her and everything else because she was always locking herself inside her house and everything every time I got home from
Mm.
work and everything else. So, I look back and I'm glad that, I'm learning stuff from your content and other contents and everything else that I've been, because I'm gonna tell you this, you know, some of the other YouTube contents I've been listening to, and I've been getting involved and talking to other people. They've been kind of like my therapist and everything else, believe it or not, because I was just heartbroken, the way how she broke up with me and everything else. And talking to sisters like yourself and other sisters who have similar YouTube content has kind of helped me and everything else, and kind of look into perspective of how some of our own black women have been behaving, you know, whenever they've been through a relationship, particularly an interracial relationship and everything else.
Mhm.
I've realized that, a lot of these ladies, whenever they get divorced from a non-black man, they've they're not mentally healed from that because they're always just talking about their ex. They always talk about that I had to teach him how to love me and everything else, and not just love me just to have a roof over our head and everything else. They were just constantly complaining about their relationship and how they weren't fully being loved, appreciated, and everything else. I was just sometimes there just to become a sex tool for them and everything else, and just to keep a roof over their head. So a lot of these, whether it's black, white women too, they go through that as well too with
Yeah,
their white spouses
of
too.
course.
Yeah, but a lot of these sisters, this like the one I have, I encouraged her to to seek some therapy, to seek some counseling and everything else when we were together. And she would just block it. She wouldn't do it and everything.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah,
there's
there's
a
a lot there. There's definitely a
yeah,
lot
so
there.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of sisters, who've been through interracial relationships and everything else, who've been married. Whenever they get a divorce and everything else, I mean, it feels like it's the end of the world for them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, divorce is, I mean, that's a whole other tangent. I will say, I divorce is very serious. Unfortunately, we live in a culture that normalizes it, but it's not. Um, yeah, it's very, it can be very damaging. And I think it hits men and women in different ways, but it's not a positive thing. And there are ladies sometimes who are looking for men who just want them to be a backup plan and not necessarily emotionally and spiritually healed from them. So lots of impact there. But I want to give 18th letter a chance to try. I don't have a ton of time. And
Yeah,
if
one more thing, too. One more couple of points I want to make too. When
okay,
some of these
just remind
ladies,
me to don't keep it up fast because I only have a few more
okay,
minutes. So.
I do notice a lot of sisters still doing a little bit of interracial stuff, but they're going now after white women. A perfect example of that is
Yes.
it's Candace Parker
Yes. No, for
and
sure. Yes.
Lisa Salters.
Yes. I've noticed that. I actually tweeted about that. I think last year. I see it all the time in the Bay Area. I see a lot of lesbians with white women. A lot of black lesbians with white women. I don't know if it's a Bay Area phenomenon, but I remember talking about this last year when I went to the Black Joy Parade. I saw a lot of black swirlers, a lot of lesbian black swirlers.
Yes.
So
I'm gonna land my plane, but thank you very much for bringing this subject again.
yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
come. All right, then. Have a good one.
Okay, take care. Thank you. Bye. Okay, 18th letter. What do you have on it?
Hey, Miss Shay, how you doing?
Um,
I know you gotta go, so I'm gonna keep it short.
yes.
I would just say, like to add to what the brother just said a minute ago.
Huh?
To add to what
Oh, hey! Is that Arsena one? I have the 18th letter.
Arsenal, yes. My name is Arsenal.
Arsenal.
You're doing great work. It's the first time I've ever called in anywhere.
Oh,
But I
great.
just want to mention
Hey, Arsenal.
yeah,
Do you
you're doing
mind?
great work.
Thank you so much. Do you mind if you let the 18th letter finish? Then I'll be happy to have you go. I don't know if you heard
Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, I'll let you go in just a minute. Thank you so much.
No.
Okay.
yes, Miss Shay. And to add to, what that brother was saying earlier, I noticed that, certain things like with accountable commentary, what he says, and I noticed like when it comes to like the swirlers in interracial relationships, like how he said protecting Brad's image, because the things that we don't know, we're just on the outside looking in. But we noticed that we never hear any details about the breakup. We never hear, they never have anything negative to say when it's a breakup with Brad, ever. At least for the most part, I've noticed that. And I think if the roles were reversed with black men, of course, it'll be a lot of slander of our image, trying to make it seem like we're just the most despicable human beings on earth. And I remember watching one situation where it was a black woman in Canada who was dating a guy, and the guy just broke up with her and upped and left. And he found another woman in Brazil, and this woman was still actually like talking to him and everything, like while he's dating this woman in Brazil, hoping that she'll be able to get back with this man. If you notice with the swirlers, the ideology is very similar to a bigot or a racist when it comes to black men. They have to justify the reason for the mistreatment.
You said they have to justify it?
Yes, they have to justify the reason, like for the mistreatment of black men, and they justify the reason for them dating out.
Yes.
And it's because that's what they want to do to begin with. I don't know what it is in our community where we can't call out the coons that are black women in our community, or people who are just deal with self-hatred issues. But for some reason in our community, we do not want to address the self-hatred amongst the women.
Right.
We do not.
No,
So
There's truth to that for sure. That's why we have these conversations here, because it's not helping nobody to not address it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's getting worse. I saw one of your shorts where you said we have to stop lying to black women. And for some reason, it seems like the community is in fear to do that. It seems like we are very nervous to not,
to not,
you know, to not tell the truth. So
Right.
you've been doing this for some years, Miss Shay. I just want to say I appreciate you for allowing me to come up on your platform. And I appreciate all of the work that you do, because I know this does takes a lot of work to be able to break down and analyze this type of mentality that exists amongst certain groups of women within our community. So if anybody don't tell you, I appreciate your work and your content.
Thank you.
And I'll just say this because I know you got to get to the next brother. Do I think, like, when it comes to accepting the reach back? No. No,
Okay.
especially it depends on the type of woman it is, especially if it's one of these women with the, anti black misandrous, hate and everything like that. And, no, no. I will advise brothers to stay far away from a lot of these women.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate your continued support, and yeah, we'll follow up. Like I said, I'll probably try to have a part 2 on this since I'm short on time today.
All right. Thank you for having me, Miss Shay. You have yourself a great day.
Okay, you too. Okay. All right, Arsenal. So you're gonna land the plane, and I'm gonna have to hop this off. And then for those of you guys who are joining, I said I'm gonna try to do a part 2. I just was opening the call line for members and for those who had showed financial support today. And then I can follow up with a part 2 and have a time for more people to call in, and we'll just really hash out this conversation about this is Swirler Reachback, the Swirler to pro-Black pipeline that's been going along, and ultimately what that means for you guys, because I'm not impacted by it as much. The ones who are really impacted by it the most and experiencing it are y'all who are out here dating and, intermingling with Black women romantically. So that's what I wanted to hear from y'all. But what do you have to say, Arsenal? Oh, wait, I'm not hearing you. I'm gonna make sure you're unmuted. I don't know if you're speaking or not, but you're on mute, Arsenal. If you're still there. I don't know if you're still there or not. Okay, I'm trying to unmute you. I'm gonna add you back to the stage. Are you there, Arsenal? Or are you did you walk away for a second? Okay, well, I'm not sure if he went away. I'm not able to hear him, but as I mentioned before, we covered off a lot today. We covered off a lot of information, ultimately examining this trend of Black women who swirl, are on the swirl game or on the swirl thing, and then they end up finding out it's not all that it's cracked up to be, and they decide to be pro-Black. And what is that transformation like for Black men? More specifically, is that something that Black men will accept for those who actually are legitimately, you want to call it pro-Black?
Kenyan. My girlfriend's Kenyan. I see lots of brothers there.
Hello?
So they're looking for peace.
Okay, I didn't hear a
because
word.
they're willing to date a Black woman as well, some.
Oh,
I noticed that Black women only date white men.
Hey, Arsenal, can you hear me?
They don't date anyone else, even.
Wait, okay. I don't know if you, Arsenal, can you, I don't know if you can hear me because can you guys, okay. Are you guys able to hear? Let me know in the comment section. Arsenal, can you hear me? I didn't hear anything that you were saying. Arsenal, can you hear me?
Really?
Okay. Are you there? Arsenal, can you hear me?
Yes. Wait, okay, let me type. I'm here. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I didn't hear anything that you said. Do you mind going back to the beginning?
Really?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe it was the okay. Okay, now you're mute. I was hearing you then. I'm gonna unmute you. Okay, I'm gonna remove you and then bring you back and then see if I can hear you then. So
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I just added you.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes. Okay.
Okay,
now I can hear you.
I'll make this very quick. Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'll make this very quick. I have a former coworker.
Okay.
Can you hear that?
Yes, I can hear that.
Okay. He has a American flag tattoo on one shoulder, Confederate flag on the other.
Oh wow.
He's from the deep South.
Okay.
Only dates non-white women. He can't stand American women. I don't know why he can't stand white women, but he dates like Persians, Turks, blacks,
Okay.
anybody.
Wow.
Now,
Okay.
he told me that when he gets a black woman on Tinder, the Confederate tattoo is not a deal breaker. He says what he has to do because he said the first thing he notices on a date, he said he knows in 3 hours he'll have sex because she'll start off with how she doesn't like black men. And he says all he has to do is sit there, listen and nod, and 3 hours later, she's coming home with him.
You're kidding.
Or whatever, 2 or 3 hours later.
Hey, that's crazy.
Facts. Or my mom, facts. And that's when I know that black women, and I'll say just real quickly, when black men date out, they'll date Latina, Asian, also black women who are like maybe Afro-Latina in Brazil, or like me. I've been to Africa. I live overseas. I love African women. So
Awesome.
black men will date other black women. Okay. But I noticed that black women that swirl only date white men, not Latinos, not like British black or anything. And my personal opinion is because they hate black men and the white men hate black men. That's just my opinion. I'll land my plane on that.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. I will say, without you giving me any stats or any graphs or anything to reinforce that, I certainly believe there's element of truth to what you're saying, because there's too many cases of black women that I have covered who have ended up unalived, who end up in the houses of these white men after on the first date. And I'm like, why did you go to his bed? Like, you just met the dude offline. Why are you in his house at 2:00 in the morning? Like, there's so many cases of these women who ended up getting hurt. And unfortunately, it starts at a date, it starts somewhere, and then it's like they go to the house. And for me, I'm like, if you shouldn't be doing that, particularly if you just met that dude the night of. So based upon some of the
cases, with a Confederate flag.
Yeah, that's insane to me. That I don't understand that.
I asked him this. Well, why do you date black women? He said this. He said they treat us in terms of white men like we're the prize. He said white women make demands. He said black women who swirl treat us as we're the prize. And he said it feels good.
Yep, I could understand that. I'm gonna do a video on this. Shout out to Malarkey. I've been trying to do it. She's a member of mine, but he sent me a video of a Hispanic man. I think he was Mexican. And he said he loves black women. In the video, he was like, it's not that I don't like other races of women, just black women pursue me. And he's like, it feels good to be pursued. So he has hella black girlfriends because black women love to come up to him and talk about how nice his hair is all the time. He has like long, straight hair. And he's like, that's why I love black women, because they make me feel good. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's hella funny. So.
But you're doing great work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love black women. I'd love to find a good Black American woman, but I'm overseas right now. But even being in America, it's needle in a haystack, you know, even in church.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. I mean, I've been in church my entire life, still am today, and I understand.
Me too. I'm a son of a deacon.
Right. Yeah. So you understand, unfortunately, that even in some of those settings, swirling and self-hating can kind of be pathologized, or it can be hidden behind scripture. And me and my husband, we talked about that exclusively, how people can, and I don't know if I think partially it is because of the heretical, anti-biblical conception and depictions of Christ and these biblical characters that are just completely ahistorical. But I think that certainly has impacted the mind of these ladies. So that's a whole other tangent, because that'll get me on here way longer than I have time to.
Anyway.
But I understand.
Thank you, though.
And yeah, we'll continue this conversation at a later time.
Will do.
Okay, you take care. All right, guys. So I really appreciate your support. I am going to have to hop off. It's getting around dinner time out here in Cali. The sun's starting to go down. Well, actually, I think it has another hour and a half or so before the sun goes down. But yeah, this went a little longer than I anticipated, but that's okay. What I would like to do is do a part 2 on this, because this isn't like a viral event that is going to not be relevant anymore next week. Like, this is an ongoing trend that's happening, and it's probably likely to continue as this country evolves or devolves, depending upon how you look at it. So yes, we will. I'll try to come back on a part 2 in this next time I'm able to do a live. And thank you so much for listening. Those of you guys who, you said, could you believe what he said? Yeah, and as I mentioned, I could absolutely believe what he said because of the cases that I've actually covered off of women who were Black women who were found in like the rooms and private places with white men they met online like that day. And I'm like, why would you put yourself in a vulnerable situation with a man that you've never met? Like, what makes you do that? And are there different standards that you have for Black men versus white men? And I've heard Black women themselves admit that, yes, there are different standards. So yeah, I was responding to one of your guys' questions. With that said, we can continue this conversation. I'm sure many of you guys have thoughts on this, because this is more about actually hearing what you guys have to say. And of what I've heard up to this point from majority of you guys, I reviewed the content creator who's very much in the Pan-African, quote, pro-Black space, unquote, that's what you want to say. And his answer is absolutely no. There is no reach back. Don't accept the reach back, or whatever was what some of you guys different say. Once you swirl, stay over there. Or if you do want to be reformed, find another brother who was with the Snow Bunnies and then got himself reformed, which, as I mentioned before, those kind of Black men don't really exist. I don't see a ton of Black men who are with Snow Beckies, if they call it, and then they all of a sudden want to be a leader of the Black community. Like, I don't see that a ton. So yeah, so definitely interesting. Be sure to go and check out some of the other videos for context. Like, share, subscribe on the way. Leave your comments, become a channel member. You can have access to exclusive content and also my Discord. I appreciate all of you guys. Be sure to catch your copy of It's Not Jermaine's Fault if you have not already. That you can check out the book. You can also check out the shirt. I've had some of you guys purchase the shirts. I wanted to get your guys' insight on some of these things. Anyways, you said Jonathan Majors and that's it. Right, Jonathan, that's about it. So a prime example. You can find you with Jonathan Majors, okay. Other than that, you guys, thanks for hanging out. And yeah, y'all remember, it is not Jermaine's fault. Okay?
It's Jermaine's fault, let the whole world see. Black kings rising high in our own destiny. Moving through the storm, proud and bold we stand. Shining like gold, love's in command.
Miss Andrew tried to put him down with a Miss Andrew vibe, but Jermaine flipped the script, now watch him thrive. In a classroom of doubters, his spirit never fell. Every harsh word turned to beats that made him rebel. They came the neighborhood up, dropping wisdom like a rhyme. Challenged that old Miss Andrew said, not on my time. With his wife Mia Swahili for strength and grace by his side. They set the record straight with humor and pride. In the dating game and gender wars where opinions clash and play, Jermaine and his crew keep it smooth, dancing hate away from awkward first dates to the battle of the hearts. They flip the script with funky vibes and soulful art. Talk, let them squabble, we're too fly to be confined. Every snide remark just fuels the fire of our mind. With laughter as our armor and pride, our battle cry. Black men rise above it all, reaching up into the sky.
Fall, let the whole world see. Black kings rising high in our own destiny. Moving through the storm, proud and bold we stand. Shining like gold, love's in command.
Miss Andre tried to put him down with her Miss Andre vibe, but Jermaine flipped the script, now watch him thrive. In a classroom of doubts, his spirit never fell. Every harsh word turned to beats that made him rebel. Then came the neighborhood bump, dropping wisdom like a rhyme. Challenged that old Miss Andre said, not on my time. With his wife Mia Swahili for strength and grace by his side. They set the record straight with humor and pride. Game and gender wars where opinions clash and play. Jermaine and his crew keep it smooth, dancing hate away from awkward first dates to the battle of the hearts. They flip the script with funky vibes and soulful art. Talk, let them squabble, we're too fly to be confined. Every snide remark just fuels the fire of our mind. With laughter as our armor and pride, our battle cry. Black men rise above it all, reaching up to the sky.
Fall, let the whole world see. Black kings rising high in our own destiny. storm, proud of gold we stand, shining like gold, love's in command.
Let them talk, let them squabble, we're too fly to be confined. Every snide remark just fuels the fire of our mind. With laughter as our armor and pride, our battle cry. Black men rise above it all, reaching up to the
Angels who
sky.
rain fall, let the whole world see.